Welcome to the U-Turn Podcast. This is the place to connect to who you truly are. We're bringing PhDs, experts, and leaders to help you elevate your mindset in your work life and in your love life so that you can see things differently and truly love your world. I'm Ashley Stahl. I'm a career expert, author, and TEDx speechwriter and booker, and I'm excited to bring you in to this week's episode. All right, U-Turn friends, you know the deal. We bring magical people on the show, and today is truly no exception. Dean Graziosi, I met him forever ago in a business group. I didn't know anything about marketing or funnels, except for the fact that I exploded a funnel with a lot of help, so I knew something, but I didn't know what I was doing. And I remember seeing him walk into the room, and he had such a clear picture on what it really means to be online, to sell from the heart, and to really convert people into customers that you can really serve and make a difference for. And he has just been around the block, let me tell you, when it comes to business. He has a really special partnership with Tony Robbins, and you see him probably on social media all the time with all sorts of different offers. And most importantly, he's a father, a loving husband. Love watching him on Instagram with that. A New York Times bestselling author, entrepreneur, investor, just instrumental in founding and helping grow, more than 14 companies. And they've collectively generated more than $1 billion. So you're in good hands if this is in your ears right now. And I really want to support you with how can we quantum leap in our careers? How can we manage our nervous system as we build? Dean, you have been at the forefront of so many things. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Ashley, it's a pleasure. And the more I get to know you, the more I adore you and love following what you do and love watching the impact you're making. And I love that it's time to scale your business because more people need what you do. And for those of you listening, I know you got lots of other options and things going on in this crazy busy world, but I'm glad we get to hang out for a little bit because I think this is a shifting time in the world. The world has always been shifting. It's not like, it's unique to us, Ashley, and it's unique to everybody listening. And this, in my 55 years on this planet, I've never seen it so crazy and uncertain because we're not sure where things are going. And all I know is in times like that, I just go inward and focus on gaining more capabilities, gaining more skills, taking more uncomfortable action, because just know this, in times like these, most people are going to wait and see how it goes. Let's see how an election goes in the States. Let's see how the economy goes. Let's see how interest rates go. Let's see if I should take a chance. And while they're seeing, they're actually sliding. And you have an opportunity to take uncomfortable action, and it really is uncomfortable action, and really get ahead. So I'm glad you're listening, and I hope I can help spark that action in you today.
What a gift. Well, I feel like so many people listening, no matter what stage of business they're at, because, you're so generous whenever you go on podcasts, helping whoever you're talking to with their business. And I know that, like Martin Scorsese says, what's most personal is most creative. It's one of my favorite quotes in the world. And what's most personal to me in my business is probably one of my most creative challenges or problem solvings that I need to face. And I imagine that's similar for people. And I imagine everybody listening, you're at any sort of stage in your business, and every new stage, like we were talking about before we hit the record button, it's like new level, new devil.
Always.
And I hear that expression. I think about it all the time. And what comes up for me is, how do you hold so much, Dean, as like you're a father, you're a husband, and I'm not just talking about logistics and not burning yourself out, but how do you hold the risk? Because I think a lot of people are sitting here and they feel a sense of so much fear of taking what they have to the next level. And here's what I mean by that. I think about my business. It started off, so everybody, listening, that I've been helping craft TEDx talks, helping facilitate the booking. We've booked over 100 people. And that our first year of business, we did 50 talks that we wrote, helped write. And in the next 3 months, we are estimated to bring in triple that, like
Wow,
just in 3 months.
amazing.
So it's like quantum
So
growth,
yeah.
10x growth. And it feels so scary to let myself win. It feels so, and when you met me, Dean, and I don't want to waste too much of this, people
No,
know.
I love it. This is great for everybody. So this is awesome, Ashley.
Yeah. Well, I remember when I met you, I had built an email list of 516,000 people. after a year of trying to figure out how to do a webinar. It was 2014, 15 webinars. Like, you knew everything about webinars and you were in that group. I didn't know much. And I spent a full year trying to make a webinar work on how to get a job. And it was a course that I was selling at the end on how to get a job. And I have a whole crazy story with that, but where it ended was I skyrocketed that course. I remember after, it felt like failing for like a year, spending 5K on ads, and then I would make 5K in sales, and then somebody would refund because I had a money back.
You're like, I'm upside
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a cluster, Dean. I offered a 30 days, no questions asked refund because it was, millennials and it was the recession and all these things. And about 20% of people would refund on the last day and they would take the entire course. That put our revenue into chaos. So all of it said, I ended with $500,000 in debt. And I remember when I met you, and that's a whole story I could get into, but when I met you, I had just made $5 or $6 million in revenue after a year of trying to make something work. And I went through this massive downfall and I spent 4 years paying it off. I don't know why I didn't claim bankruptcy. I just felt this like I didn't know what it meant, or I didn't have financial education around me. So I just kind of told him, and I had this weird integrity thing that I get from working in national security in the government of justice, integrity. It's my fault that I failed, so I got to pay for it. Like this whole thing. So I spent 4 to 5 years paying it off. And now I'm having all this success in front of me again, all of this financial win, team management, hiring more people. And here's how it goes, right? At first, you're the person doing the business by yourself. You're doing everything, you're wearing every hat. Then you hire some people and you have just enough money to pay your bills and pay for everybody. And then you start to scale. And then you actually start to feel that financial success, that spiritual connection of
Mhm.
like actually getting out there. And I know for anybody being in this process is so scary. People have so much trauma from facing risk, facing money. So, this is my long winded invitation to you to ask, how do you manage that? And how did you, like, what was that inflection point from you for stepping into success and really owning it and not being scared?
Wow, a lot to unpack there and
Yeah.
all good.
Yeah.
Here's a couple things I want to say. Um, in that journey, when that went sideways in your business, mine did exactly the same thing. I actually sold my first company to someone and my first information product. Um, I sold it to somebody who beat it up. Like I used to, it wasn't a joke back then. It was like I sold a racehorse, not the fastest horse in the race, but I sold it to somebody. They broke its legs and then I had to take it back.
Oh my
And
God.
when I took the company back, they ran $2 million in debt on it. And then $2 million to me 23 years ago, it might have been 2 billion. Like it was just
Yeah.
an unapproachable amount. Um, and I made the same decision, not to go bankrupt. It was my decision to sell it. So I owned that. So I took the next year and a half and I paid all that off. Now, the reason I only share that with you is because I'm blessed to be connected to a lot, and we know some mutual friends, and you don't get many entrepreneurial journey stories without the villain, without the thing that went sideways, without the fall, without the crash. And if you take what you said earlier, my dearest friend and partner, Tony Robbins, says the thing that he said to me 27 years ago that shifted my life before he knew me. We've been friends for 14 years. 27 years ago, I just got his course. But when he said something, I took it to heart. And I thank him all the time. To this day, we talk every night. I still thank him once a quarter. I'm like, thank you for this one sentence. And he said, what if life happened for you, not
Mm.
to you? And I just, that day, I took it literal, like literally, Ashley. I was like, what if I had to go almost through that bankruptcy? What if I had to have my family thinking I was nuts? What if I had to have those sleepless nights? Like, when is enough enough? Why would you go for more? Aren't things good enough? All of those emotions that you go through, what if all of that had to happen to craft the person you are today, Ashley, that can go from 50 in a year to 50 in a month or whatever that exponential growth is because people need you and they need your services? What if all of that journey was part of the plan by
Mhm.
God, the universe, whatever your beliefs are, that you had to go through it to get here? And whether that's true or not, I've just decided to believe it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I've just decided to believe it, right? I have a son. I have 4 kids, but my younger son and my younger daughter both have severe allergies. Like my son has 12 anaphylactic allergies. My daughter has
Oh
18.
my
There's
gosh.
18 things that could kill them, right? So my wife
Yeah.
is always, and we're in this program where the majority of kids, after 5 years of this program, they can have food freedom, right?
Wow.
So the reason I'm saying that is what's that got to do with what you're saying? I just choose to believe with 100% certainty. And I had to get in my wife's, she's the one cooking all their meals and worrying about them. If she goes to a birthday party, she's making sure crumbs don't fall or cheese doesn't fall or dairy doesn't fall, right? But when I shifted this in her, it changed everything, because there was a time she's like, these poor kids, they can't eat anything. They can't have pizza. It's dairy, it's cheese, it's eggs, it's everything you could possibly imagine. I mean, and I just chose to believe that there's a reason for it. They both eat healthy. They're both super clean. They can't have sweets and they can't have all the stuff that other kids have. So they eat like grilled chicken and salmon and rice and broccoli every day of their life. They're beyond healthy. And I just convinced her that in 5 years, both of our kids are going to have complete food freedom. It's in my head. So when I see them and they're having a rough day or they eat something,
You're
it's
like,
like,
this is coming to an end.
it's
Yeah.
coming to an end. Like I made the decision. I don't know. It's only probably a 70% chance they will, but I chose to
Take a
believe that.
chance.
Right.
Yeah.
So my whole point is sometimes what we choose to believe starts the ball rolling. Secondly, you said new level, new devil.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to make the decision. Do you want to be a lifestyle entrepreneur or an accomplishment-based entrepreneur? You really got to think of those two questions. Because as a lifestyle entrepreneur, I bet you could fine-tune the company you have. You could probably have 2 or 3 people that work with you, writers, somebody help with accounting, or whoever you have now. And I bet you could maximize it to make yourself whatever the number is. Let's say it's 200 grand, 500 grand, $1 million a year, whatever your goal is. I bet you could reverse engineer this thing, have it run lean and mean, and you could make money and make the same amount for the rest of your life. And that's a lifestyle entrepreneur. I've met them along the way and they're amazing. I have Dean Jackson. He was the first one that shared this with me. He said, I need to make $1 million a year. That means I can golf 5 times a week. I can do this, I can do that. And I never want to make a bit over because I don't want to hire more people. And he's been staying at that level for a long time. Now I know $1 million a year is a significant amount. Let's just say it's 100 grand.
Right.
But if you're an accomplishment-based entrepreneur, then you have to realize that every couple of years, as you grow and you face that next level, all of the same doubts that came in when I first met you, when you went into, here's what I know. I've been able to plateau and go to a whole bunch of cool levels in my life. Every time I go to the next level, it's still that same voice. And I want everybody to hear this at home. That voice in me that says, hey, you never went to college. You never got business acumen other than doing it. You don't, God forbid this fail. Like all of the things that freaked me out when I was 18 years old and 25 years old and 28 years old going into this industry, they're still in there. And every time I go to scale, every time I go to grow, they question me and they challenge me. And I want to say is I have found a voice that allows me to debate that fear and have it go away. It doesn't mean it's going to stop. It doesn't mean that imposter syndrome or fear, or whatever you want to call it, doesn't pop back up at every level. I hope we're talking in 3 years from now and you're saying, I got to double again. You're going to have the same fears, the same worries. What if I lose it all? What if it doesn't work? And I just think of the opposite. So now the other side, what drives me? I think of the opposite. I think getting to the end of my life, and this might not be for you listening or you watching or for you, Ashley, but if I get to the end of my life and realize that I played small, that I didn't step out, that I didn't take the chance to go to another level, to grow as a human, to impact more, to give away more, right? You can make it all and give it all away. I know for me, I would feel like I wasn't being the best dad because I was playing small. I wasn't doing the things that fed my soul. I wasn't growing as a human being. And I don't want to risk that at the end of my life. And the other things is I go deeply into foundation of why I'm doing this in the first place. For me, I need to be in control of my time, control of my calendar, to be the dad I want, the husband I want, the team leader I want to be. So all I can say is, you got to use the past as fuel. You got it. All of you. I know some of you listening right now have had horrific things happen to you, and I'm sure Ashley could share, I could share, and some of you, what you have could be 10 times worse, and I'm sorry. But you have a choice to use that as fuel or an anchor. I know you might be saying, no, you don't understand, Dean. I'm telling you, you have a choice. And you could switch that story today. Because I have dyslexia, I'm going to do it. Not because I have dyslexia, I'm not, right? You also can realize that voice of doubt is always going to be there, always question you. And what if that's God, the universe, or the success tax auditor going, let's see if Ashley's got what it takes. I'm going to throw some self-doubt And if she doesn't, she'll retreat. But if she doesn't, then she's meant for that next level. Right.
Mm.
And then lastly, you need a compelling future, and you need to stack that as deep as possible, whatever it takes. If it's your family, if it's your future kids, if it's your husband or significant other or family members, or running away from something painful, you don't want to be like your parents. I don't care what it is. You stack that toolbox filled of things that create a compelling future that even when you're scared, you move forward. And
Yeah.
then the last thing I'll share, I'm sorry, this is a
No,
long
please.
answer to your
No,
question.
I had a long question, so this is
Okay.
great. Yeah.
The last thing I'll say, and you know this because you live in this world, there is no greater advantage than understanding the power of modeling proven practices. I've already made so many of the mistakes that you're going to make and
Yeah.
have already made, right? I'm just a little bit ahead of you, right? I'm 55. I've been doing this a long time. Anytime I can help you, I'm here for you, right? Only because, not because I'm the smartest guy in the world, I'm just ahead of you. If we're reading a book and I'm at the end of the book or 3/4 of the way through on your first chapter, I can give you guidance on the book because I've already read it.
Yeah.
So everybody here, listen to me. Every time you get freaked out on how am I going to do this? How am I going to quit this job and start something new? How am I going to bolt on a new side hustle? How am I going to scale this business to another level? How am I going to get more profits? How can I get my social media to be bigger? Your brain will freak out and go, I don't know how. Maybe you're too old. Maybe you're too young. How do we find it? When you replace how with who, and you think, who has already done this? And how can I model what they've already done? I'm telling you, when you adapt that into your soul, it changes everything.
Mm. One thing I was thinking about as you were sharing is like there's such a big difference between starting something versus sustaining something. There's a lot of content out there about getting started, and a lot of
Yeah.
entrepreneurs do it. Not a lot of content about keeping going. And I am it is one of my unique abilities. I am a rocket ship. Like I've taken all these personality tests. There's one
Yeah.
called the Culture Index, and my really good friend Tracy Holland lives by it for her hiring.
Uh-huh.
And she's like, okay, Ashley, you're in the 98th percentile of the population for storytelling and persuasion. I'm like, well, I guess that's what took me into almost working in the CIA.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm using my powers for good. Um, but I think to myself, there's so many experiences we've all had that we want to look at that past experience. So in my case, when I first met you and my business was skyrocketing up and then it tumbled down. And then even with this business I had, my best month was preceded by my most threatening month yet. We got a trademark letter, cease and desist. We weren't really doing anything wrong, but like when you play big, you get legal attention, and that's just
Yep.
kind of the game. And I actually feel like this isn't something a lot of people talk about on podcasts because it's dicey. So I will dicily,
Yeah.
carefully
Yeah.
discuss it. But there have been a couple times in my career where I'm the same character, but it's a different book. It's not the same book. And I can't help but say to myself, oh, this feels like the same book that I already had a bad story in, right? Like when I met you and my thing came tumbling down after that, sometimes when things look risky now, it's a trauma response. I'm like, oh, but
It
remember,
absolutely is.
character, different book. But there was a moment in time when I started my business where I had no idea what legal rules were around copyright and stuff like that. I had a YouTube clip in my portal for a online course, and we had about 7,000 people buy my job hunting course. And I guess there was like a sound bite in there. A lawyer reached out, cease and desist, you owe us damages, like one of those ambulance chasing
Yeah.
energies of like you're in so much trouble and you owe us all your
Been
money.
there. Been
So
there.
scary. Been there,
Yeah.
exactly. And I'm such a pure, I try to be pretty pure, which is an advantage as much as it can be a challenge. And I was like, I am so sorry. I had no idea I was violating your licensing copyright. What do I owe you guys? Like literally, that's who I am. So
Right.
everybody has told me since, they're like, Ashley, never respond to those threat emails again. Have a lawyer. So I get it. That ended up costing me probably $50,000. And it was one of the most stressful things that I could have done when I was in the middle of debt. And even now, this business has been doing so well. I still got an outreach a couple months ago. Hey, copyright. They ended up being in the wrong, but it stopped my operations for an entire month. And we almost choked our entire cash flow. And I had to run to the bank for a business loan. And and then of course we're
Can I ask you
scaling.
something?
Yeah,
I ask you a
yeah,
question, Ashley.
yeah,
What in your career? I know you work for the government.
yeah.
What if you weren't doing this? What career would you be in?
Gosh, I would probably always be writing. Like that's my core skill set. So I'd
Yeah.
be doing something
So
writing.
a couple things I want to share with you.
Yeah.
And I want everybody to hear this.
Yeah.
Every single path we're going to take in our lives has those stumbles. Okay. So I chose the route where I've been sued before, not many times, knock on wood, but I've been sued by the silliest things on the planet.
Yeah.
Um, I've had an accountant who never when I was first in business, Ashley. This guy was 55 years old. I was 32 in this industry, and he had never gambled a day in his life. He took his wife's life savings and gambled it all away one weekend and
Wow.
didn't want to tell his wife. So he went into my business account, emptied my business account, went to the freaking casino thinking he could win his wife's money back. And he lost her money and my money. He came in on a Monday and sat down in my office and cried and said, all the money's gone. I mean, what do you mean? I said, what do you mean all of it? I said, well, we got the reserve. He goes, I used that too. Cried like a baby. And I had nothing. I had no say. That my whole life was in this business. I put everything. I had employees that were going to be paid the next 2 days
Right.
from now, right? So, the reason I'm saying this is all of those things have happened. But I want to tell you, if you look, I have dear friends I grew up with in high school. I bought my childhood home. We remodeled it. We go back there. It's in upstate New York. I live in Arizona. I bring my family, and it's a special place. I go see my friends. They never had to get a trademark issue.
Yeah.
They never had somebody sue them over something stupid. They never had an accountant take their money, or a bad employee, or someone to take your IP and go steal it, or never had any of that. But I see my friends who are incredible and they're just as smart as me, and they chose careers that they hated for 35 years. Now I'm 55, so a lot of my friends are close to retiring. One commuted to the city every day for construction.
Mhm.
And if I would tell him any of that, you know what he'd say? I
Hmm.
got up at 5:30 before my kids were up. I commuted to the city for 2 hours. I got in a train at 5:45. I commuted for 2 hours. By the time I ate and got home, my kids were in bed. And I didn't realize that I missed their whole childhood until they were 18 and they moved out. He's like, and when I have goosebumps because each life has something. Each like the reason I love the entrepreneurial journey is, yes, it could be hard sometimes, but I would choose nothing else a million times over to have to work for somebody under someone else's law, under someone else's rule, where I couldn't be the version of me, where I couldn't fail to learn. I couldn't fail to make mistakes, where I've grown as a human because I've made dumb choices, but I've also made choices that have impacted 2.5 million people in one day. And I got to do cool things with Matthew McConaughey and my partner, Tony. None of these things would happen. I get to be in complete ownership of my calendar. I go to this week, I was at jujitsu twice, two tennis. Both my kids are in jujitsu. Both my boys are in jujitsu and tennis. My daughter is in sports. She plays softball. My little daughter, who's 2, is in dance. I've been to all of them. I've been to swim class. I don't miss a damn thing. So do I have to deal with some crap in between? Do I have to get nervous when I go to scale? Am I walking out on a feels like I'm walking out on a plank every time I take my business to another level? Yes.
Yeah.
And I found a way at this age to embrace it, because I could have another devil. I could be commuting to the city for $58,000 a year and miss my entire family. My other buddy went and removed asbestos and he's not healthy because of it. He's got like every single path you
Exactly.
choose has something. So all I want to say, and the last thing I'll end with this, and for everybody watching on this point, is what we have to watch. Sometimes we don't realize that the issues we're dealing with are the things we once dreamed we would have.
Yes. I love that. Okay. So a lot of what you're sharing here, I'm so excited we're having this conversation because I think there's just so many podcasts about how to create success, but ultimately, and there's a lot of content out there about comfort zone. And I think about that a lot because
You're not
people
going to be in your comfort zone. Bullshit.
know.
Don't. That's the biggest lie you've ever been told. I'm never in my comfort zone.
Yeah, but you know what's interesting is people don't really talk about what it really means. Like people indicate like getting out of your comfort zone means doing something. It means going up to the girl at the grocery store and asking her on a date if you're
Right, right, exactly.
right.
That makes
That's
sense.
that's what
Yeah,
we've learned about comfort zone. I think that's what the
yeah.
social construct is of the discourse around comfort zone. But here's what I'm hearing from you, and I want everybody to get that's not being discussed is getting out of your comfort zone isn't always about what you do. It's about what you're willing to face.
So true.
And look at how much you just talked about. Look at what I'm talking about here. I'm sitting here on my own podcast telling you are such a beast at what you do in the best way, Dean. And I'm sitting here, I could ask you about how to get to my next level in revenue, money, whatever. And I would love to ask you all that for everyone. But the reality is, you're not going anywhere unless you have a different relationship with your comfort zone. And so,
So
for-
true.
nobody
So
told
true.
me, like,
And when I said before, like BS,
yeah,
it means you're gonna be uncomfortable,
yeah,
right? But is my friend sitting on a train every morning for 2 hour commute each way, is he uncomfortable? He's
yeah, it's like,
uncomfortable every day.
exactly.
He's
So choose your
uncomfortable
heart.
when he can't buy the house that he wanted to do. He's uncomfortable when he has to listen to people's podcasts. When I know one of my buddies has had a dream to have his own podcast, but he's never gonna, right? We have to decide what we want our uncomfortable to be and what are we going to fight for?
Yeah,
Because, you can go in the military. That's comfortable, right? And
yeah.
thank God people go in the military to protect us, right? I'm not saying
But
that.
that's a hard route for
But
sure.
that's
And
a hard
I'm
route. You're
right.
comfortable. You got 3 meals a day. You got a place to sleep. You don't have to worry about bills. But that's a hard freaking route,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, it's interesting too because I don't talk about comfort zone in this way, but I've been thinking about it a lot because as I'm helping so many clients craft TEDx talks, some people will come to me with a tip that I'm like, that's too trite. I won't let you put that in your talk
Yeah, and I
unless you
love
have
that.
original thinking about it. Like, give me a different thought. So this is my original thinking about comfort zone is like you and I are talking about lawsuits and all these things. These are the things we have to be willing to face if you want to play big in business. It's not that I'm going to prescribe anybody listening that this is going to happen to them, but it is a possibility, right? There's so many possibilities when you put yourself out there. We see people getting canceled. I've seen record numbers of friends with huge influence online that have backed up because they're so traumatized from having been canceled in some way or another. And I totally understand that. It's so hard to get out there, but I'm really hearing you say, choose your hard. And I think a lot of our relationship to these hard things obviously comes down to how we grew up, the conversations we heard about hard things.
Yeah.
But there's also these inflection points in our lives that allow us to take it by the reins if we have enough awareness to see it and change the way we relate to it. And clearly, you talk about growing up in upstate New York, which is such a special place. I love upstate New York. Um, and, whatever those conversations were in your household with your caretakers, whoever they were, you've done something in your head to kind of make it to what I think a lot of entrepreneurs would look at you online, Dean, and say, you made it to whatever the promised land is. And there is really no there, it never ends. But it
Mhm.
seems like you have some sense of freedom, financial stability, success, an awesome team, all these things that it looks like on the outside. Um, what did you do, or what were those inflection points for you to relate differently when you look back in time? Because you said your back was against the wall. That person drained your bank account. Like, how the heck did you rise up in those moments? Because I'm imagining, for me, I want to go in fetal position. Like when my webinar fell down and my course sales flew down and my ads weren't working, my sister, I had a death in the family, I had Lyme disease, like I was in a cluster of time. And all I wanted to do was hide from the debt collectors and pretend nothing happened and go move to Bali or something.
Yeah.
So
Can I
how
tell
did
you?
you do that? Yeah.
eh, Welcome to being human. We all find and feel those same emotions. I remember when I found out my money was gone. I remember to this day because it was so long ago. It was when there was a wireless phone in your house, right? We had a phone with a big antenna on it. My phone was like this big, and I threw it against the wall and it shattered and it put a hole in the wall.
Oh,
And I'm
wow.
like, great, now I
Right.
have a hole in the wall.
Can't afford the whole. Yeah.
And I remember, I've never shared this before, so I love this conversation. And I
Yeah.
hope this is helping you if you're listening right now, that
Yeah.
we all are going to face this. For anybody who's spending time with us today, um, I remember sitting on my bed and saying, it's over. Just so you know, the way my brain works, I think I am a pessimist who has spent my whole life becoming an optimist, because the first reaction of my brain, just the way it still works to this day, it's over. I don't have any reserve. I put all my eggs in one basket. I don't have any money in nobody in my family has money. By then I was already supporting my dad, supporting my mom, supporting a couple of different people in my family, putting a nephew through college. I had been already, and then I start thinking, I can't send my mom a check. I can't send my dad a check. My brain went right into, it's over. There's no way out of this. And what I've come to realize is I kind of let that voice has gotten shorter. Now that might be for 3 hours, where a decade ago it might have been 3 days, and 2 decades ago it might have been 3 weeks. I have just shortened the time that I want to feel sorry for myself and focus on what's wrong. And I've just found a way to get quicker, say, are you done? Are you done? Because
Yeah.
now we got to focus on solutions. What is it? Because I am not going backwards. My kids are going to have choices. I am going to be in control of my calendar. Nobody's taking my calendar away. Nobody's going to tell me when I can have off and go to sports. Nobody's going to stop me from making impact on people, because I know I can. And I reframe and I go, what do we got? How do we get through it? There's always a way. And over time, I might be sharing this with somebody. I'm not trying to pound my own drum.
Yeah.
I just want to tell you, I've been doing this long enough that so many times my brain has said immediately, there's no way out. And there's always a way out. Every single time there's a way out. And as crazy as this sounds, and this sounds like I'm not trying to have some, foo-foo personal development. It's all good and it's worth it. Every time you come out stronger, every time
Yes.
you find a new level, every time your ship goes into the storm and you batten down the hatches and you get through the storm, you come out and there's a new beautiful paradise on the other side. Your next level is on the other side of the thing you're afraid to face. That's just where it is.
It's so true. And a lot of it for me has come down to like getting older. Like when you're in your 20s, at least, and you're starting a business. So anybody who's younger, who's listening, it's like your reference, like I think about cities, like when you grow up in a city, it's the default is what the city is. And I went to
True.
graduate school in London. I left that city. I came back, the whole city changed. Winter Wonderland in Hyde Park was it was so institutionalized. It used to be like a bunch of fake reindeer and real reindeer in the park. You'd walk in. Now there's a line and this wall around it, and all this stuff. Things change. And it's funny because it's mentally we understand that, but in our hearts, like we don't have the direct experience of that. And I think it's the same with business and wisdom, right? Like I remember when my business was failing, I was 27 years old. I just made that $5-6 million. Everything was going to shit. And everybody was like, oh, but this is a lesson. You're going to learn it. And so for anybody listening, it's like, can I even tell you how many times I spent 4 years paying off the debt, waiting for an elegant idea to drop into my brain, because I know there's so many ideas I could do, but one of my gifts is not having shiny object syndrome. I go with the thing that's right. And then I
Yeah.
skyrocketed the thing. And in those 4 years, I was in purpose and spiritual purgatory of like, you're in slow simmer energy. You don't really know when the next idea is going to come. And then finally, when it did, the amount of moments, Dean, and I'm sure this is for you and for a lot of people who are listening, that I was like, my team would come to me and say, should we go this way or that way? And I'd say, oh, I know exactly what that way looks like. So we're
Yeah.
going this way. And
Yeah.
it just felt like, whoa, 37 feels so much more fun than 27 for me. And I had no idea that those things people would say when I felt so down were actually real. So I hope somebody listening that's like, I don't want to learn this lesson. I get it. I didn't want to learn the lesson either, but you will be better. You will roll it into who you're going to become. And this makes me want to ask you about zone of genius and scaling. So one of the most nuanced things that I've learned for myself is the difference between zone of genius and zone of excellence. Like I'm
Okay.
pretty excellent at a handful of things, but my zone of genius is what really makes things happen, right? And I just realized the other day I did a little chart of myself and I realized, oh, I'm excellent at a lot of things I'm doing in my business, but it's not my zone of genius. And just because you're excellent at something doesn't mean you enjoy it, doesn't mean you
See,
get
you
life
said
work.
you're 37.
Yeah. Yeah.
There it is. The wisdom's coming. The
Yeah.
wisdom's coming. Don't you wish you could have given that to your 27-year-old self?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
let me ask you a question. How many times in your journey have you tried to work on the things you suck at, work on your weaknesses?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And how many times has that just caused you frustration? It takes you away from your zone of genius. It takes you away from your core competency, the thing that actually makes you money. We've all done it. We've all done it, right? So what you're understanding is one of the core principles I love to teach, that you call it a zone of genius, a core competency, whatever you want to, there's so many different names for it. It's the thing that not only comes from your soul. Sometimes you feel like it's downloaded from somebody that's deeper than you. Sometimes you get in a flow state, whatever those, but they're the things that actually made your business what it is. It's the actual money maker in your business. And every time you're not doing that, you're actually losing money. So over time, when people say, how do you have time for your kids and your wife and 3 businesses and you're partners with Tony and you do all these things. How? It's because I've figured out what moves the needle in my life the most, right? So there's non-negotiables, being with my kids, being with my wife, non-negotiables. Then I figured out my zone of genius is when I do big live events, when I partner with cool people that we can put 1 million people in an event and I can speak on camera and get people to change their life and get them to say yes all at the same time. When I'm doing that, I get to change the world. I get to change my business. When I'm worrying about accounting, when I'm worrying about all these other things that I used to do, I'm actually just taking away from that. So as you're realizing as you go to scale, Ashley, what you should be looking at is what are the things. Now, one more thing I want to say. I know I kind of digressed on
No,
that, but here's
please.
what I want to say. Don't ever outsource your zone of genius. And
Yeah.
so many people do it. I watch people who are great marketers, built a whole company, and then they hire a marketing team and their company starts to go down, right?
Yeah.
Never outsource your zone of genius. Outsource everything else, though. You should look at the next 2 years on how you could do what you love to do that moves the needle the most and how you can replace all the things that you're excellent at with other people.
Yeah.
Now I don't want to oversimplify scaling, but if you do it that way, then
Yeah.
your core competency, your unique ability, that will be the thing that fuels the growth that you need. Because if you spread yourself out too thin, trying to do all these other things while you scale, that core thing that got you here is going to be neglected. And then you'll be like, wow, what do I do first? How do I fix this? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I see that all the time too. It's like I remember back, I don't know if this is the case or I'm just making this up, but I feel like when I started my webinar stuff, 10, 12, 13 years ago, it felt like coaching was new. It probably wasn't. I mean, now it's really advanced and it's such a fast growing, valuable
Mhm.
industry. There's so much space for so many people to join. I always tell friends, like, there's room on top. Like, if you really
Yeah.
got a gift, there is so much room on top. There's not a lot of room if you want to be a commodity. If you don't have the heart, the soul, the spirit to do the work, whatever it is as a practitioner. Um, but I look back in time and I wonder, I don't know if it's that I have a romantic partner now. My boyfriend Neil, he's a venture capitalist, and Stanford Law School, went to medical school. He's very institutional, and so he kind of comes from that line of thinking of push through, brute force. You can do it. He's raising his second fund right now, and he's a beast. He's so successful at it. But I'm built differently, and I think a lot of people are too. And so I'm constantly toggling. Where do I lean into my zone of growth? Where do I have a responsibility to do that? Because back when the online boom began of all these people starting coaching businesses, I saw a lot of friends get success and then they're at the country club and then they forget who their ideal client is and then they don't even know how to
Oh my
market.
God, you just hit that. That is 37 speaking out loud. Like,
Yeah.
and just picture you're 37. I'm going to be 56.
Yeah.
I got almost 20 more years of watching this, and I've been in this industry the whole
Yeah.
time. I was in this
Yeah.
industry when I was younger than you. I've
Yeah.
been here this whole time watching the friend that finally hits it, and he's at the country club and buys the Ferrari and 2 new houses, and then they're just gone. They,
Yeah.
they they forgot to stay into that thing. Like the one thing I always want to be reminded is like we're doing the Secrets to Scaling event that we got coming up.
Yes.
I want to remember always what it felt like when I felt stuck in my business. I knew I needed to go to another level, but I didn't know how. Like I want to embody that. I want that feeling when I looked in the mirror and go, is this it? Like, should I go get a job? Am I going to let my family down? Like, I want to feel that because if I feel that, I live inside their mind and I can help serve them. Now, I want to tell you that now I love that because you've been so amazing to our company and amazing friendship that we've started to develop. We have some great mutual friends, like our mutual friend Craig. I was
Yeah.
with him last week, by the way.
Craig was on the
Um,
podcast. Everybody, Craig Clemens, you should check him out.
yeah, he was so good, so
Yeah.
smart, one of the smartest people ever. He's been my friend for 20 years. If you look at what he did with his zone of genius, one of the best copywriters in the world. He's the best storyteller with words, right? I mean, I remember when he was sitting in the back of my rooms 20 years ago, not even as a guest, I just let him come and he would sit in the back and just take notes like a madman. This guy built one of the most successful online brands that exist today with supplements and um, if you look what he did in his zone of genius, he took and curated a team to learn to write like him. He hired frustrated screenwriters or people. What would you call somebody who would write a movie? movie
Yeah.
writers,
Screenwriters, movie. Yeah.
screenwriters. He
Yeah.
took screenwriters who already knew how to tell stories, right, and taught him his method. And he built this bullpen of replicating himself to scale the company because he knew his core competency. His brother runs the business. His brother is operations. His brother's CEO. His brother's negotiating deals. Craig knows how to tell a story that you go, I get that. I want
Yeah.
that product. And it was so unique that when he thought about scaling, I remember when he was scaling, he's like, I can't keep up anymore. I can't write more. Like it'd be you if you were writing all the speeches. Like I can't write another speech. I can't do another thing. I can't scale. When he thought that, he's like, he took 2 years and built the most incredible team around him that think like him, write like him. And I remember he's got such a great attitude. I remember when he said, he called me the first time. He said, I had one of the biggest breakthroughs today ever. And I'm like, what's that? He said, one of the team members I taught, his copy, his version outperformed mine. I
Yeah.
won. And most people wouldn't think that way. They're like, no, I still want to be the lead. Like he dropped his ego and knew what his goal was. My unique ability, my core competency, my zone of genius is this. If I can replicate that, and now he's got a team, that his company, I don't want to share his numbers, but he's one of the most
Yeah.
successful online marketers or businesses for supplements in the world and dog food now. Incredible.
Yeah, dog food. I love his little niches. I come to his house all the time and I'm like, what's this product you're tinkering with over here, Craig? But it's fun to hear you talk about this because at the forefront of this is how you communicate. And I know when I came into your office and I was talking to you and you and Tony have that group, and I was presenting about storytelling, there is such people don't really realize like when you're making a decision, when you're in an inflection point, you're having conversations with other people. And conversations are one of the most powerful catalysts for clarity, and obviously who you're having them with and how seen you feel by these people, but it's words. And so I know you have this really cool event coming up on October 24th. I would love for you to share a little bit about who is this for? Secrets to Scaling Summit. If you're listening and this conversation is motivating you, how can it not, to really step into what you're supposed to be doing? Can you share a little bit about who this is
Yeah.
for and what they're going to learn?
For sure. So, Tony and I get to do big events. We do a couple really big events a year, around 1 million people. We invite everybody looking to just take their life to another level, right? We do some of it through personal development, do some of it teaching people how to be in our world, how to sell products and services. And if you want to do a mastermind, a workshop, a podcast, write a book, right? Build a course. This one, we decided to do. This is a brand new event. We've been working obsessively on this it's a 3-day event, about 2.5 hours a day. And the whole goal is kind of how our conversation started. So many people are teaching you how to get in business, but who's teaching you how to really scale successfully? And there is a lot of ways to scale a business. Ashley, you're going through some of them right now.
Yeah.
But because this is our lane, it's because what Tony and I do. I believe one of the greatest unfair advantages to scale any business you have right now is to add an information product. Because when we think about scaling, yes, we have to replicate ourselves. One of the first thing when someone's in business, I could name it, and I know what phase they're in when I hear somebody and I say, how you doing? They're like, oh, if I could clone myself. I already know that phase. We've all been, if I could have 2 of me, if I could have 3 of me, right? And then we make our first hires and we do all that. But we live in a place where we're watching, we're going to have some great guests during this. One is a dentist. Guy who's doing amazing as a dentist. Wanted to scale, maxed out his area, maxed out the amount of men and women he had work in his place to clean the teeth and do all that, but knew there was another level. He realized, wow, I've been in business for 18 years. I've learned so much. He added a product to help young new dentists go quicker and faster. Doubled his business just like that. And when he did it, he didn't have to hire more employees. He didn't have to hire more technicians to clean teeth. He just shared his life experience, right? From real estate agents to hair salons, everybody's realizing I can continue my main company, but I can add a product for either my clients or my peers that want to do the same business as me. For example, my physical therapist, right? I tore my ACL and my rotator cuff skiing with my son. That was fun to do it at 54 years old.
Oh
Fun
no.
stuff. So he's coming to my house. He was I joke with him, you're the most expensive guy in town. You're the best guy in town. And every time he comes to me, he said, yeah, but I'm still in the time and effort community. I might get $200 an hour, but there's only enough hours in a day if I'm still going to be a dad. I'm like, you need to build a product for your current clients that you could bolt on, an information product that can help me eat better to lower inflammation. What are the best exercises? Or a membership? And you make 150 grand a year. I Googled it. Most people in your space make 80. You need to create a course helping other physical therapists make 150 grand a year instead of 80. And now he's working on both of them. He shows up with smiles on his face because he realized he doesn't have to clone himself. He doesn't have to hire new people. He has to share his life experience through an information product. So just know there's a million. I loved this conversation today on all the mindset stuff and things we have to do to scale. But I believe the quickest way to scale whatever business you're in is to add an information product to it. But most people don't know how. And that's what we're going to share over 3 days. We're going to show you how to identify what group you should sell it to, how to package it, how to deliver it, how to add it on, how to market it, how to sell. It's going to be an incredible event.
Okay, a couple taster questions for everybody who's thinking about this, because I'm really excited. I'm going to put this in the show notes, and this is going to drop before the event. So everybody, if you're listening and you caught this, head on over. One question I have is, I feel like in the information product world, aka online courses, if those of you don't speak information product, online courses, there is so many different fields of thought about the market, ads, the cost of ads, stuff like that, how to catch people's attention. You're competing with more brands to get people's attention. I don't really think about that. I just think about telling a great story and then people listen and you get good ad costs. But there's so many strategies there. Do you have a belief about low ticket products versus higher ticket products? Because I hear a lot of that around friends who are wanting to scale products.
So it's so funny. That conversation's been going on since I got in this industry. Is it low
Right?
ticket? Is it high ticket? Can I give you the secret?
Yeah.
It's a great product with compelling offers. It's a great product with great storytelling. The great storyteller always wins. The person who cares about their client to make something where they put their client first, where they fall in love with their client, they fall in love with their results. That is who's always won. I mean, I watch the internet go, no, low ticket doesn't sell. You got to go straight to high ticket. And then the whole internet burns out high tickets. Like, it's low ticket again. Webinars are dead. You got to do an ugly video sales letter. No, video sales letter dead. You got to go back to webinars. No, you got to do a 3-day like Tony and Dean. Like, fall in love with your product. Fall in love with your client. Learn how to communicate and write good copy or tell compelling stories. And you don't have a lot of competition. And that's some of the stuff we teach, right? Is there's a lot of people doing the wrong stuff out there. When you do it the right way, there's not as much competition. And whether that's a course or a monthly membership, or we go Zoom once a month, people are dying. I mean, this industry is at $1 billion a day. When we first met, it wasn't even close to that. It's at $1 billion a day right now, heading towards $1 trillion a year, because people are realizing if I find the right who, if I can model proven practices of somebody who's already done what I want to do, I'm cutting a person a check for that. I want to cut a check to go faster. You just need to know the best way to do it, the best way to build it, the best way to market it. And I think after 74 years with Tony and I, that's our combined time in this industry. I think we have it figured out. I'm just saying, I think we got it figured out.
I think that's a really comforting thing for everybody listening about this, Secrets to Scaling Summit on October 24th, is just to remember that sometimes we look at something big we want to do and we realize, like, yes, what we want to do is an art, but there are people who've been at it for a while that have gotten it down to a science as well. And so
That's such a good point, because I always talk about the art and science, and most people focus on the science, but you got to understand the art, because the art is where the messaging comes in. The art is where a heart is attached. Science is replicatable. You can learn the science, but I love what you just said. The art comes down and is taught as a science.
yeah.
And that's what we do. And I think that's why I would bet to say we have more successful people in this industry than anyone else, because we understand what it feels like. We understand how to get in their mind. I mean, who better than Tony Robbins to get in your mind, get you so you feel like I can be unstoppable, and then get the science behind it, right? When you combine those two, and we incorporated technology and AI that thinks like Tony and I. And I mean, it's a wonderful time to want to grow. It's a wonderful time if you can find the mindset to not let the outside noise stall you or make you feel uncertain or make you pause. If you truly can say, now is my time, I don't think there's ever been a better time, especially in this industry. When you started, it was brutally hard.
Yeah.
When I started, and I had it, it's so funny. When I see something funny, I just found something look at this. That was my first video.
No
did.
way.
I
Dean
taught people how
Graziosi's
to
Instant Car Pro, how to know a car's true value in just minutes.
listen. This was 1999. This is
Wow.
a cassette for those of you that are younger. And if you're not seeing
Oh
this,
my gosh. That's
VHS, not a cassette, VHS. But that's where I started. And when I started, I had to build product, put it in a warehouse. I had to build an infomercial. I had to get a call center. Today, we have the opportunity to have instant delivery, through a phone and great technology, and we can impact others. So if you have a business, if you're self-employed, solopreneur, business owner, you're doing your own thing. This is specifically for people who are doing their own thing. And we're going to show you over 3 days how to bolt on a knowledge product and use that to create additional revenue stream to your company. That's really what it boils down to. If that's not you, totally cool. I'm glad we hung out today. You come to our next event with Tony and I, but if you are in business, solopreneur, self-employed, you can't miss this event. And I know we have a link, ashleysts.com, and it's free, not kind of free, totally free. No catch. You just go reserve your spot.
I'm so excited that you have that, and I'll put that in the show notes. And I just appreciate your time so, so much, Dean. Thanks for coming on. And everybody, I would love for you to send me a message after you go to this summit. Share with me a little bit about what you learned. I'm so excited for you. I'll be there. And until next time, Dean.
Appreciate you. Keep killing it. See you, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to the U-Turn podcast. I hope you learned so much in this episode and you're putting it into action today. We would love to hear from you. Slide into my DMs at Ashley Stahl or leave a written review if you're inspired. It would mean so much to us. Be sure to subscribe to the show because, as you know, the more subscribers we get, the better the guests we can bring you. And in the meantime, if you're looking to skyrocket your personal brand and impact millions, head on over to wisewhisperagency.com to learn more about how we are getting clients booked for the TEDx stage.